AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her new boyfriend to our family Christmas. So, I, 28F, have always been the responsible sister in my family. I have a steady job. I help my parents with bills when I can, and I tend to take the lead when organizing family events. My sister, Emma, 26F, is a bit more spontaneous. She's great, don't get me wrong, but she tends to make impulsive decisions, and while I love her dearly, I've learned over the years that she often doesn't think through the consequences of her actions. Our parents, late 50s, host Christmas every year at their house, and it's become kind of a tradition that only family attends unless someone is officially dating someone seriously. Over the years, we've all seen her bring various partners, sometimes people she's only been dating for a couple of weeks, and honestly, it has caused some chaos. One year, she brought a guy who had just been released from jail. Another year, she brought a friend who ended up insulting my mom's cooking and tried to start a political debate with my dad. These weren't huge crises, but it created tension and awkwardness that lasted for weeks. Fast forward to this year. Emma has been dating someone new for 2 months. She mentioned him once at dinner, and he seemed fine. Nice enough. I didn't think much of it. Then, a week ago, she texted me, asking if he could come to Christmas. She wrote something like, "I know it's short notice, but I really want Alex to meet everyone this year." I froze when I read the text. Alex. I didn't know anything about Alex. I Googled him, and I couldn't find much, which is fine. Maybe he's private. But something in my gut told me this might turn into another situation where we all end up dealing with drama. So I called my mom and mentioned it. She said, "Well, if you're worried, maybe just talk to Emma and set some boundaries." I agreed. I wanted to avoid a repeat of previous years, but I also didn't want to be the mean sister either. I texted Emma back. Here's the gist. Hey, I know you're excited for Alex to meet everyone, but Christmas has always been a family-only thing unless someone is seriously dating for at least 6 months. I know it's short notice, and I don't want things to get awkward. Can we plan for him to join a family brunch in January instead? Her response was immediate and furious. She accused me of trying to control her dating life and said I was being unfair. She even texted our mom, claiming I was trying to ruin her happiness. Our mom didn't take sides, but suggested we all calm down and talk in person. When I saw Emma later that day, things got worse. She started crying and told me that this was the first Christmas she's felt happy in years because she finally has someone she loves, and I was being selfish and controlling. I tried to explain that it wasn't about Alex personally. It was about the timing and the tradition, but she wouldn't hear it. She kept saying, "You just don't want anyone to be happy but yourself." Christmas came, and it was tense. Emma didn't bring Alex, but she barely spoke to me, avoided the dinner table I had helped set up, and left early. My parents were upset because they felt stuck in the middle. They even suggested I could have been more flexible and let Alex come. The problem is, I still feel like I did the right thing. I think it's okay to set boundaries, especially when it comes to family traditions and managing chaos. I tried to offer an alternative. She could have him at a different family event, but she refused. Everyone keeps telling me I should apologize, but I honestly don't feel like I did anything wrong. A few days after Christmas, Emma has barely spoken to me. She unfollowed me on social media, and my mom keeps hinting that I should fix things. I don't want to give in and set a precedent that she can bring someone new to every family gathering, but I also don't want to ruin my relationship with her forever. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her new boyfriend to our family Christmas? Background info I didn't mention. Emma has a history of impulsive behavior, but is otherwise a good sister and friend. I've always tried to maintain family traditions and peace. I suggested alternative ways for Alex to meet the family in the future, but Emma refused. My parents didn't explicitly tell me I was wrong, but seemed frustrated with the tension. Christmas dinner itself went smoothly, just without Alex, but the emotional fallout is significant. I genuinely tried to be fair and avoid hurting her feelings. I feel like I'm stuck between enforcing boundaries and keeping my family relationships intact, and I don't know if I overstepped. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for not inviting my cousin to my wedding after she went behind my back to plan her own celebration with my fiance's family. This is going to be long because there's a lot of context, so bear with me. I, 28F, am getting married in a few months, and I've been planning my wedding with my fiance, Jake, 30M, for about a year. We live in different cities, but we've managed to find a beautiful venue in our hometown that can accommodate our families and friends comfortably. I've been very hands-on with every decision: food, music, flowers, seating arrangements, because I wanted it to feel personal and special. Here's the complicated part. My cousin, Emily, 27F, is a very strong-willed person. We were close growing up, but over the years, she's become someone who always seems to want to take control of events or situations, especially family gatherings. She's also very competitive with me, though I try not to let it get in the way. Historically, when I plan events like birthdays or holidays, she often insists on organizing her own versions, even if I've already planned something, and sometimes family ends up feeling like they have to choose which event to attend. It's always caused minor tensions, but nothing extreme until now. A few months ago, I had a conversation with Emily about the wedding. I told her I was happy for her to help in small ways if she wanted, like offering advice on dress options or helping with decorations, but I wanted to make the final decisions myself. I explained that this was mine Jake's day, and while I loved her, I needed to have control over the planning. She seemed fine with that and even complimented some of my ideas, so I assumed we were on the same page. Fast forward a few weeks, my fiance's family invited us to a casual dinner, just a small gathering at his parents' house to celebrate our engagement. Emily tagged along with her fiancé, and during the dinner, she started asking Jake and his parents detailed questions about their vision for the wedding. She acted very friendly, but I noticed she was subtly pushing her own ideas. I brushed it off at the time, assuming it was harmless. A week later, I started receiving messages from a few family members expressing confusion. Apparently, Emily had told them she was planning a surprise wedding celebration with Jake's family because she felt like our wedding didn't include enough people or didn't reflect the right vibe. Some messages even implied that she was organizing an alternative event without consulting me or Jake at all. At first, I thought it might be a misunderstanding, but then I started getting more direct information from people who had been invited by Emily. Invitations were going out for this celebration on a weekend shortly after our wedding, and she made it seem like it was officially sanctioned by Jake's parents. I was furious. I confronted Jake, who was shocked and upset. He assured me he had no idea Emily was doing this, and he immediately called his parents to clarify that no one was authorized to plan any additional celebration, and they supported us 100%. Jake and I agreed that we needed to draw a line because Emily's actions were undermining our wedding, making it feel less special and putting unnecessary stress on everyone involved. I reached out to Emily directly. I told her in no uncertain terms that what she was doing was inappropriate, hurtful, and not acceptable. I explained that she had gone behind my back to organize a separate celebration with my fiance's family without our consent. She claimed she was just trying to help and that she didn't think it was a big deal, but I told her clearly that this crossed a major boundary and that it couldn't happen. I told her she would not be invited to this additional event she was planning because it is not our wedding, and I do not feel comfortable including her after what she attempted to do. After this, she went to several family members and started telling them that I was being unreasonable, controlling, and punishing her for being excited about my wedding. Some people have privately reached out to me expressing sympathy, but a few family members are upset and think I overreacted by cutting her out. Emily has been posting subtle passive-aggressive things on social media, implying she's being excluded and that our family is taking sides unfairly. It's created this awkward tension because some distant relatives don't have the full context and are now asking questions I don't want to answer repeatedly. I understand that family dynamics are messy and that Emily probably meant well, or at least that's what she claims, but I feel like her actions were manipulative and selfish. This isn't a situation where I can just let it slide because it directly affects my wedding. I also don't want to involve her in any further planning or events leading up to the wedding because I can't trust that she won't try to hijack something again. I've tried to explain my feelings calmly to other family members, but the pushback is still there. My parents fully support me and Jake, as do most of his family, but Emily and a few relatives are very vocal about how harsh I'm being. I know that weddings often bring out strong emotions, but I feel like I'm being unfairly judged for setting boundaries after someone literally tried to override my plans behind my back. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to include my cousin in any wedding-related events after she attempted to organize her own celebration with my fiancé's family without our consent. I feel like if I give in now, it will only encourage her to continue undermining our decisions. But I also feel guilty for the tension it's creating within the extended family. I just want to have my day respected and peaceful, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm the one being unreasonable by drawing a hard line. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding after what happened at my sister's graduation. I, 28F, come from a pretty close-knit family, or at least that's how it seemed growing up. My parents have always been big on family events, birthdays, holidays, graduations, you name it. I've usually been happy to attend, but something happened last month that completely changed how I feel about family gatherings, and now I'm at crossroads. My younger sister, Lily, 24F, recently graduated from college. She had a big party planned, inviting extended family and close friends. I was really excited for her because she's always been ambitious, and this was a huge milestone for her. My parents, as expected, were very hands-on with the preparations. The night of the party, things started off great. I helped set up decorations and spent some time chatting with cousins I hadn't seen in a while. About an hour into the party, my cousin Rachel, 26F, who's known for being dramatic, started making comments about how the catering was overpriced for such a small crowd. I brushed it off initially, thinking she was just trying to be funny, but then it escalated. She went on to compare Lily's achievements with her own. Rachel didn't go to college and has been struggling to find stable work, so she started saying things like, well, I guess some people just have it easier, and you'll understand when you're in the real world, Lily. I tried to intervene politely, but Rachel ignored me and continued criticizing everything from the decorations to the dessert choices. My parents were trying to be diplomatic, but it was clear they were getting frustrated. Then it happened. Rachel loudly announced that she didn't think Lily really deserved some of the gifts she'd received. She went through the presents, picking a few up and making snide remarks. People started whispering and looking uncomfortable. I tried to tell her to stop, but she waved me off, saying, "I'm just being honest. Someone should tell her." At that point, I lost my patience. I grabbed her hand to stop her from touching the gifts and said, "Enough, Rachel. This is my sister's day. Leave her alone." Rachel screamed at me, calling me controlling and saying I was overreacting. She then stormed out of the party, but before leaving, she called me a jealous little sibling trying to ruin everyone's fun. The party was tense after that, and my sister ended up crying in the corner because she felt embarrassed and attacked in front of her friends. I stayed with her, apologized for Rachel's behavior, and tried to help salvage the evening. After the party, my parents called me and said they were disappointed in how I handled the situation. They told me I overreacted and that I should have let Rachel speak her mind, even if it was rude. My siblings supported me privately, but my parents and some extended family members have been criticizing me. They've said things like, "Family sticks together, even when it's uncomfortable," and "You should have just smiled and let it slide." Fast forward a few weeks. My cousin Rachel is getting married. The invitations went out, and my parents expect me to attend. I'm seriously considering not going. Part of me feels like if I attend, it's just opening myself up to more drama. Rachel has already messaged me a few times, saying she hopes I'll be there, but I haven't responded. I feel like she hasn't even apologized for ruining my sister's graduation. So why should I be expected to celebrate her wedding? My parents are pressuring me, saying things like, "It's family. You can't just skip it, and you'll regret not being there." Some extended family members are subtly guilt-tripping me, implying I'm being petty and holding grudges. I've explained that my sister was humiliated at her own party and that Rachel hasn't shown any accountability, but my parents think I'm taking it too far. I really don't want to be the person who refuses to attend family events, but I also don't want to put myself in a situation where I feel disrespected and tense for an entire day. If I do attend, I know there's a good chance Rachel will try to provoke me or make passive-aggressive comments. I also know some family members will side with her and make me feel guilty. I've considered going for just a short period to avoid confrontation, but I'm worried even a brief appearance could trigger an argument. I've thought about sending a gift and a card instead, but my parents keep insisting that attendance is the only acceptable option. I've even thought about having a heart-to-heart with Rachel before the wedding to set boundaries, but honestly, I don't feel confident that she would respect them. I'm feeling torn because part of me wants to keep the peace, but another part of me feels like standing up for myself and my sister's dignity is more important. My friends tell me I have every right to skip the wedding, but my parents' disapproval is weighing on me. I don't want to be seen as dramatic or unforgiving, but at the same time, I'm scared I'll regret attending and putting myself in a stressful environment. So, Reddit, AITA for seriously considering not attending my cousin Rachel's wedding after what happened at my sister's graduation? Or should I just suck it up and go for the sake of family? Character count, 6,542 if you want. I can also create another version with even more tension, secret family secrets, and dramatic twists that could push engagement even higher. It would be slightly longer, around 6,900 characters. Do you want me to do that? AITA for telling my sister she couldn't bring her toddler to my wedding after she refused to compromise on the guest list. So, this is going to be long, but I need some perspective because my family is losing it. And honestly, I feel like I might be missing something. My fiancé, let's call him Dan, and I have been together for 5 years, engaged for 2. We finally set a wedding date this year. And from the start, we knew we wanted a small, intimate wedding. Something manageable and not overwhelmingly expensive. Our target guest list was about 70 people, which is small considering both our families are large. Now, my sister, we'll call her Lisa, has a 2-year-old, Charlie. Lisa has always been a bit difficult about boundaries and planning, but she's otherwise a great sister. The thing is, Charlie is very attached to her mom and tends to get overstimulated in social settings. We've had family parties where Charlie cried the entire time or needed constant attention. So, we had made the decision early on that the wedding would be adults only. It wasn't meant to be exclusionary. We just wanted a peaceful ceremony and a manageable reception. We also made it very clear on the invitation, no children under 16. Initially, Lisa seemed fine with it. She RSVP'd quickly and said she understood. But about a month before the wedding, she started hinting that she might bring Charlie anyway, because she couldn't leave him with a babysitter for that long. Dan and I offered to help pay for a trusted babysitter or find a daycare solution nearby, but she waved it off, insisting that she could just manage it. I reminded her gently that the wedding venue had strict fire code limits, and adding even one more child would throw off seating and catering. She said we were being ridiculous and that Charlie would be fine. I tried to compromise. I suggested maybe she could bring Charlie to the ceremony only and leave before the reception. She immediately shut that down, saying that wouldn't work because she didn't want to disrupt the flow for other guests if Charlie had to leave early. She started getting defensive, saying we were trying to control her parenting and that it wasn't fair to keep her from celebrating with us. I explained that it wasn't personal, but logistical and financial. Adding extra people, even one child, costs money, changes seating arrangements, and could disrupt the environment we were trying to create. She said that was silly, and that our wedding should be about family, which includes her child. I have to admit, I got frustrated. I ended up sending her a long message basically saying, I love you and I want you there, but Charlie cannot be at the wedding. It's an adults-only event, and there will be no exceptions. If that means you can't come, I understand, but we can't risk breaking the rules for everyone else. I thought that would end it, but she exploded. She accused me of being selfish, controlling, and even said I didn't really care about my family. My mom called me crying, saying I had shattered Lisa's heart, and that I should make allowances for her child. My dad took a more neutral stance, but said I could have handled it more diplomatically. The wedding came, and Lisa ended up not coming because she refused to leave Charlie with a sitter. She sent a long text during the ceremony about how I had prioritized Instagram aesthetics over family, and that I'd lost her forever. My mom was visibly upset at the reception, and several other relatives whispered that I had been too rigid. Dan, and I tried to focus on the positive, and most of our friends and extended family said the adults-only rule was reasonable, but the tension was palpable. Since then, Lisa hasn't spoken to me directly, and our family gatherings are awkward. I get that she's upset about missing such a big event in our lives, but I genuinely don't feel like I was wrong. We made our rules clear, offered alternatives, and stuck to a decision that we both agreed was important for our day. It's not like she would have had any say over the seating, the catering, or the planning. We were trying to avoid a meltdown in the middle of the reception. I don't know if I handled the conversation badly, or if I could have softened it more, but I also feel like her reaction is extreme. Weddings are stressful enough without adding the expectation that parents can disregard rules just because their child exists. I'm trying to accept that she's hurt, but I also don't want to feel guilty for protecting the day we envisioned. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to allow my sister to bring her toddler to my wedding? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her new rule about gifts? So, this is going to be long, and honestly, I still don't know if I'm overreacting or not, but here goes. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who is getting married in a few months. I've always had a pretty good relationship with Emily, though we've had the usual sibling rivalry over the years. Nothing major, but typical annoyances. Recently, though, something happened that has completely thrown me for a loop, and I need to figure out if I'm a jerk here. Emily and her fiancé, Josh, 27M, have been dating for about 4 years, and their wedding plans started about a year ago. When the invitations went out, everything seemed normal. Then, a few weeks later, Emily called me. She sounded nervous, which is unusual for her, so I tried to reassure her. What she told me completely caught me off guard. She said that this wedding was going to be completely different from a traditional wedding. She had a new rule: no cash gifts, no gift registries, nothing like that. Instead, she and Josh wanted something personal from their guests. Not just personal in the sense of a handmade gift, but personal in a way that required time, thought, or skill. For example, she said that someone could write them a heartfelt letter, make a piece of art, create a song, cook a fancy meal, or even organize a day experience for them. Essentially, they wanted each gift to be unique, meaningful, and creative. She said they didn't want the standard gifts because it feels impersonal and everyone does it anyway. Now, I've always been a thoughtful person and I like giving gifts that matter. But here's the thing, I'm not artistic. I don't paint, I don't craft, I'm not musically talented, and I have a job that already takes up 50+ hours a week. I also live about 300 miles away, so I can't just casually drop by and cook a fancy meal or do something in person. I try to ask Emily for suggestions or guidance, thinking maybe she just wanted a thoughtful card or a personal letter with a small gift. She got defensive and said, "No, I mean really personal. You can't just give us money. You can't just buy something from a store. We want something that shows you put real effort into it." I explained that I'm not good at that kind of thing and that I would feel uncomfortable trying to force something creative. I told her I could try writing a heartfelt letter, but she said, "A letter is fine, but it has to be special, not just a generic card. Think about what your relationship with me really means and make it tangible somehow." I felt like no matter what I said, I wasn't meeting her expectations. At this point, I started feeling really stressed and anxious. I've always struggled with perfectionism, and now I felt like her wedding gift expectation was a massive mountain I couldn't climb. I suggested maybe doing something together with her after the wedding, like going out to dinner or spending a weekend together, but she said that would be too little and not in the spirit of the wedding. So, a few days ago, I made a decision. I told Emily that I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I explained that I love her, I want to celebrate her, but I can't in good conscience participate under these gift rules. I said it would make me anxious and that I wouldn't feel genuine giving her something that met her requirements. I offered to visit after the wedding and celebrate with her then, but she didn't respond right away. When I told my parents, they were shocked. My mom said, "Emily will be heartbroken. You can't just not go to your sister's wedding." My dad was more practical and said, "It's her wedding, but you have to look after your own mental health too." Emily eventually called me, and it was tense. She accused me of being selfish, saying that I was putting my feelings above her happiness and that I clearly didn't love her enough to make an effort. She also implied that I was lazy and unwilling to try because it wouldn't take that much effort if I really cared. I try to explain that it's not laziness, it's a combination of anxiety and honestly not being the type of person who can make elaborate creative gifts on demand. I said, I'd love to celebrate you, but I can't participate in this system of gifts that I can't meet. I'd rather be honest than force something and have it feel fake. She got even more upset and said that I was making it about me and that I was punishing her for being creative and wanting something meaningful. Now I'm in this situation where Emily is hurt and upset. My parents are frustrated, and I feel torn between wanting to be there for my sister and feeling like she's asking for something that I literally cannot give. I've tried reasoning, compromising, and offering alternatives, but she refuses anything that doesn't fit her idea of a personal, handcrafted, or experiential gift. I can't help but feel like the rules are unrealistic for many guests, and that it's unfair to expect everyone to produce something so specific under time and skill constraints. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her gift rule? I feel like I'm protecting my mental health and being honest, but I also feel like I might be overreacting and letting my sister down. Edit for clarity. I'm not trying to ruin her day or punish her. I just truly cannot meet her expectations for a personal gift without feeling anxious, stressed, or disingenuous. AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend stay in my house after she refused to follow a major house rule. So, I, 29F, live in a 2-bedroom apartment that I rent in the city. I've been living alone for about 3 years, and I've always been very strict about my home boundaries because I really value my personal space. One of my rules has always been that no one smokes in the apartment, which I've made very clear to family and friends. I myself do not smoke, and I have severe asthma, so this isn't just a preference, it's a health issue. A little background. My younger brother, 27M, has been dating this girl, Megan, 26F, for about a year. I've met her a few times, and she seemed fine in small doses, but I've never spent more than an hour or two with her in any setting. Recently, my brother asked if Megan could stay at my apartment for a few nights because her apartment is being fumigated for bed bugs. I was hesitant at first because of my asthma, but I agreed under one condition. She absolutely cannot smoke anywhere in my apartment, not even in the bathroom. I thought this was a very reasonable boundary. The first night, everything seemed fine, but on the second night, I got a strong smell of cigarette smoke while in the kitchen. I went to check and found that Megan had been smoking on the balcony with the sliding door closed, which caused the smell to drift inside. I reminded her that even smoking on the balcony was unacceptable because the smoke could still enter my apartment. She rolled her eyes and said, "It's just a little smoke. It's not like you're dying." I tried to explain calmly that asthma isn't a joke and that even a little exposure could trigger a serious reaction, but she shrugged and went back to her room. By the third day, I had had enough. I told my brother and Megan that she couldn't stay anymore because she wasn't respecting the rules of my home. My brother got upset and said I was overreacting, that she wasn't smoking inside per se, and that I should just relax a little. I explained that it wasn't about relaxing, it was about my health. I also told him that it was not fair to me to risk having my apartment smell like smoke and to potentially face health consequences. Megan got extremely defensive and accused me of being controlling. She said she felt unwelcome and that my brother should side with her. My brother got angry at me for kicking her out and now hasn't spoken to me since that day. My other family members have reached out to me privately, and some have said I was being too harsh and should have let her stay. Others have supported me, saying my health and house rules come first. The situation is now very tense. My brother is staying with a friend and hasn't responded to any texts or calls. Megan posted on social media about being treated unfairly by her boyfriend's sister and implied that I'm selfish and hostile. I honestly feel like I did the right thing. I'm not saying she can't visit or stay with my brother elsewhere, but I can't allow someone to break a hard rule in my own home, especially when it affects my health. I understand that she was in a tough spot with her apartment being fumigated, and I tried to accommodate her. I also understand my brother is upset because he feels like I ruined their plans. But I also feel like being forced to accept someone who disregards my health and house rules is unreasonable. I'm wondering if I'm actually being too rigid or if I'm justified in prioritizing my home rules and personal health. AITA? AITA for refusing to give my younger sister's wedding speech because it would reveal a family secret? I, 32M, come from a pretty tight-knit but complicated family. I have a younger sister, Sarah, 27F, and we've always had a good relationship growing up. Our parents have their quirks like most families, but nothing unbearable. My sister got engaged about a year ago, and she immediately started planning her wedding. The problem started when she asked me to give a speech at her wedding. Now, I love my sister, and I was genuinely honored that she wanted me to speak. The issue is that over the years, I've become the family's secret keeper of sorts, and there's one thing about our family that I've promised never to reveal. To give some context, when I was 15, I accidentally overheard my dad talking on the phone to someone about his side business. I later found out that he had been involved in some financial schemes that, while technically legal, were extremely shady. Over the years, I pieced together more and more information. Eventually, I realized that if this ever got out, it could ruin our family's reputation and possibly even land him in serious trouble. I've been carrying this secret for nearly 17 years. Back to the wedding. When Sarah asked me to give a speech, I immediately felt conflicted. I knew her style. She loves heartfelt stories, funny family anecdotes, and everything should feel authentic. The problem is that most of the family memories I have that would make a good speech involve this secret, either directly or indirectly. If I tell the truth about some of the things our dad did or how we got through certain struggles, it would expose this huge, potentially devastating family secret. I try to come up with alternatives. I thought about just giving a generic speech about how much I love my sister, how proud I am, and a few humorous stories from her childhood that don't touch the secret. But almost every story that's genuinely funny or touching somehow intersects with the truth I promise to keep. For example, there's a story about the time we tried to start a lemonade stand empire in the neighborhood. On the surface, it's cute, but the deeper context involves one of my dad's schemes that funded our lemonade stand materials. Without the context, the story is kind of meaningless and awkward. I told Sarah that I didn't feel comfortable giving the speech. I explained that there are some family things I'm sworn to keep private, and I didn't want to accidentally spill something I shouldn't. She got really upset and said that it was just a speech, that I could just edit the stories, or make them funnier and not serious. I told her that even edited, the stories would be recognizable to anyone who knew the full context, and that it could create problems we don't need. She accused me of being dramatic and said I was taking the fun out of her wedding. She even threatened not to invite me if I didn't participate. I told her she could invite me, but I wouldn't give a speech. This led to a huge fight. Our parents got involved, and they sided with her to an extent, saying that a wedding speech isn't the place for keeping secrets and that I should find a way to just make it work. I tried explaining that it wasn't about the wedding per se. It was about loyalty and keeping a promise to protect the family. They said I was being overly cautious and paranoid. The tension has been awful. Sarah keeps sending me messages asking if I've changed my mind or come up with something suitable, and I've been ignoring most of them because I don't want to argue every day leading up to her wedding. My friends have mixed opinions. Some say I'm right to protect my family and that a wedding speech isn't worth risking the secret. Others say I'm being stubborn and that I could figure out a way to honor her without revealing anything harmful. I really don't know what to do. On one hand, I don't want to ruin my sister's big day. On the other hand, I've spent years keeping this secret to protect my family, and giving a speech feels like I'd be breaking a promise I made to myself and my dad. I feel like if I do the speech, I could be responsible for unintended consequences that might affect everyone I care about. To complicate matters, my sister has started inviting mutual friends to pressure me into agreeing. I feel backed into a corner. I consider just writing a short, bland speech and reading it, but even that feels dishonest because it's not what she asked for. I love my sister and I want her to have a beautiful wedding, but I also can't compromise on this. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give a wedding speech to my sister because it would risk revealing a family secret. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she insulted my fiancé in front of our family. I, 29F, have always been close to my sister, Laura, 32F, though we've had our share of disagreements growing up. She's the oldest, a bit controlling, and tends to think everyone should follow her lead, but I've always tolerated it because we shared a lot of experiences and memories. I'm generally easygoing, and I like to keep the peace. My fiancé, Jason, 30M, is quiet, introverted, and super thoughtful. He doesn't like drama, and he's a bit socially awkward, but he's genuinely kind and hardworking. About 6 months ago, Laura got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Mark, 33M. The engagement was huge news for our family, and she immediately started planning the wedding like it was a multi-million-dollar affair. From the beginning, she hinted that she expected me to contribute financially. Now, I'm not poor, but I'm not independently wealthy either. Jason and I live modestly and are saving for a house. Laura is aware of my financial situation, but she insisted that as her sister and maid of honor, I owe it to her to help cover some of the wedding expenses. At first, I offered to help in ways that didn't involve money, like helping with decorations, DIY invitations, and organizing bridal showers. She seemed okay with it at the time. However, over the next few months, the requests escalated. First, she wanted me to pay for a bridesmaid dress, which was $350. Then she wanted me to cover my hotel room for the wedding weekend, which would be $600. Then she asked me to pitch in for a bachelorette party she planned in Vegas, totaling around $1,200 per person. At this point, I told her frankly that I could not afford that much and that Jason and I had other financial priorities, like our upcoming house purchase. She reacted badly, saying things like, "You're basically saying you don't care about my wedding, and I guess family means less to you than money." I tried to reason with her calmly and told her I'd still help in non-financial ways, like helping with planning, crafting, and organizing events leading up to the wedding. She reluctantly agreed, but continued to bring up money in subtle ways, like commenting on what other bridesmaids were contributing. Then the most humiliating moment happened at our family's Thanksgiving gathering a few weeks ago. Laura had brought up wedding topics, and she started talking about her budget and how she was covering everything herself. Somehow, the conversation shifted to me and Jason. She said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I just don't understand why someone like Jason would even be with you, Emily. He's fine, I guess, but he's so awkward and boring. You could do so much better." The room went silent. Jason looked completely crushed, and I was furious. I called her out immediately, telling her it was completely inappropriate to insult my fiancé in front of the family. Laura rolled her eyes and said, "I'm just being honest. I thought you wanted honesty." My parents tried to smooth things over, saying, "Laura didn't mean it like that," but I could tell everyone was uncomfortable. Jason left shortly after, and I spent the rest of the holiday avoiding Laura. After that, Laura started texting me daily, pushing me to finalize how much I was willing to contribute to the wedding. I finally responded, saying that after what happened at Thanksgiving, I no longer felt comfortable giving her money. I explained that while I wanted to support her in non-financial ways, I would not fund her wedding after she publicly insulted my fiancé. She went ballistic, accusing me of being selfish, not supporting family, and even trying to sabotage her wedding. She has since blocked me on social media and refuses to talk to me unless I agree to pay a portion of her wedding costs. Our parents are furious at me. They've said I should put family first and not let a wedding come between sisters, but I feel like Laura crossed a line that shouldn't be ignored. Jason is supportive and has told me that my boundaries are reasonable. My friends all agree that she was extremely inappropriate and that my refusal to pay after the insult is justified. The problem is, some extended family members are now taking sides, and I'm worried that refusing to pay will make me look like the bad sibling. Part of me wants to just give in to avoid family drama, but I also feel like I need to stand up for myself and for Jason. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she insulted my fiancé in front of our family? Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for refusing to give my younger brother a huge sum of money for his dream project, even though it's causing a rift in our family. I, 34M, have always been the more financially responsible sibling. My younger brother, Jake, 28M, is incredibly creative and charismatic, but has always struggled with money and stability. Growing up, our parents often covered for him when he got into financial trouble, and as adults, that pattern sort of continued. I never liked it, but I also didn't think much of it because he was, well, Jake, and he has a lot of potential. About 6 months ago, Jake approached me with an idea that he described as life-changing. He wants to open a sort of hybrid art gallery and community space where local artists can display their work, run workshops, and collaborate on projects. He had a full business plan, sketches of the space, and even a small social media following already hyped about it. I have to admit, it sounded amazing in theory. I've always admired his vision and energy. Here's the thing, Jake doesn't have much money. He's been living paycheck to paycheck at a part-time barista job while freelancing on the side, and according to him, he needs about $50,000 to cover initial renovations, permits, equipment, and basic operational costs for the first few months. He asked me to cover the full amount. At first, I was shocked. I told him outright that I couldn't just hand him $50,000 without a clear plan for repayment. He argued that this wasn't a loan. It was an investment in a dream that would eventually benefit both of us and the community. I tried reasoning with him. I told him that if he wanted my support, we could figure out a proper business arrangement, like him taking out a small business loan, crowdfunding, or even starting smaller and gradually scaling. But he dismissed every alternative, insisting that I was not understanding the bigger picture, and that if I really believed in him and his talent, I would back him 100% right now. The tension started to spill over into family gatherings. Our parents were involved too, pressuring me to help my brother because they've always enabled him, and apparently, according to them, it's my duty as the older brother. They reminded me that I have a stable career in tech and a decent savings buffer, implying I was being stingy. I tried to explain that I support him in many ways, giving advice, helping with contacts, even volunteering some time, but they said that doesn't count because I wasn't giving the money. I have to admit, the situation has made me reflect on family loyalty and fairness. I'm not wealthy by any stretch, but I do have financial stability that Jake doesn't. My thinking is that handing over $50,000 without any security or clear plan is reckless, and I don't want to jeopardize my financial future because he wants to chase a dream that could very realistically fail. I offered him smaller contributions like $5,000 to help with equipment or marketing if he agreed to secure the rest through loans or investors. He outright refused, saying anything less than full funding was a vote of no confidence. The conflict escalated further when I mentioned in passing to our extended family that I wasn't funding his project. A few relatives called me out publicly, some even accusing me of being selfish and letting him fail. Jake got incredibly hurt and angry, saying I was choosing money over family and threatening to cut me out of his life entirely. I want to clarify that I'm not opposed to supporting him entirely in principle. I've supported friends' projects and even family members in smaller ventures. But the scale here, combined with his lack of a reliable financial plan, makes me uncomfortable. I've suggested that he could start smaller, perhaps renting a space for a month, running a few workshops, and proving that he can manage finances responsibly before asking for such a large amount. That idea was rejected as being too slow and not visionary. My parents are disappointed. My extended family thinks I'm harsh. And Jake has been distant ever since the confrontation. I feel guilty because I don't want to hurt him, but at the same time, I genuinely think giving him $50,000 with no safety net is a mistake I'll regret. Now, my question is this: AITA for refusing to fund my brother's project fully? I want to support him in ways that don't risk my own stability, but the pressure from my family makes me second-guess myself constantly. Some part of me worries that if I don't help, I'm being a terrible older brother, but another part knows that enabling reckless financial decisions doesn't help anyone in the long run. Since then, our relationship has been tense. He started talking about finding other investors who believe in me, and has been fairly cold towards me at family events. I genuinely want him to succeed, and I've even offered mentorship, helping him structure a proper business plan and teaching him some basics of running a small enterprise. But he doesn't want guidance. He wants backing. The conflict has put me in a really difficult spot. On one hand, I feel like standing my ground is responsible and fair. On the other, the family pressure and my own emotional attachment to him make me feel like I'm failing as a sibling. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my brother $50,000 to fund his art gallery/community project. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated me during the planning. I, 29F, have a complicated relationship with my older sister, Emily, 32F. We've always had a bit of tension, mostly stemming from childhood competition and differences in personality. Emily is extremely perfectionist and controlling, while I tend to be more laid back and don't get stressed about minor details. Normally, we manage to coexist, but things got really bad when she got engaged last year. When Emily announced her engagement, I was genuinely happy for her. I wanted to support her through the wedding planning process, but it quickly became apparent that she didn't want my support. She wanted my compliance. She immediately started imposing rules about everything. What I should wear, how I should style my hair, what kind of gift was acceptable, and even the way I should respond to invitations from other relatives. I tried to brush it off at first, thinking it was just wedding stress, but it only escalated. The first major issue came when she asked me to help with her DIY wedding decorations. I'm not particularly crafty, but I offered to help in small ways. She was extremely critical from the start. She would inspect every little thing I did and tell me it was completely wrong or not good enough. Even when I tried to ask for guidance, she acted like I was wasting her time. It became exhausting, and eventually I stopped helping with the decorations entirely. She reacted by publicly criticizing me to my parents, saying I was lazy and not supportive of the family. The next problem arose with her bridal party. I wasn't a bridesmaid, which I was fine with, but she insisted I still take part in all pre-wedding events like bachelorette parties and dress fittings. I attended a couple of these events, but I felt very uncomfortable because of the way she treated me and some of the bridesmaids. Emily would make snide comments about my weight, my career, and even the clothes I wore. She'd also make passive-aggressive remarks like, "I guess some people just don't get excited about weddings," which were obviously aimed at me. I tried to let it slide, thinking that maybe she was just stressed, but it kept happening. The final straw was when she asked me to sit at a special table at the reception and read a speech. I politely declined, explaining that public speaking is incredibly difficult for me and that I was happy to support her in other ways. She got furious, claiming that I was being selfish and that my refusal ruined her perfect day. She even went so far as to tell my parents and extended family that I was refusing to attend her wedding altogether, which wasn't true at the time. I felt ambushed and hurt, and that's when I started considering not going at all. As the wedding approached, she continued to send me messages that were either passive-aggressive or outright insulting. One particularly bad message said, "I can't wait to see who decides not to support me. Hope you don't embarrass yourself by sitting in the back like a stranger." That really crossed a line for me. I realized that attending her wedding under these circumstances would make me miserable and would probably provoke a scene. So I told her I would not be attending. I also explained that her behavior during the planning process had been emotionally draining and that I didn't feel respected. My parents were upset, but somewhat understanding, while other relatives seemed divided. Some said I should put my feelings aside because it's her special day, while others said I had a right to protect my mental health. The backlash from Emily has been intense. She has accused me of ruining her wedding and being the ungrateful sister. She posted a long message on social media expressing her disappointment and subtly blaming me for her stress. Mutual friends have been messaging me, some expressing sympathy and others expressing frustration that I didn't just suck it up for one day. I have been feeling a mixture of guilt and relief since the decision. On one hand, I miss her and I wish things could have been different. On the other hand, I genuinely think attending would have caused more harm than good for my mental health. I have tried reaching out to her after the wedding to apologize for not attending and to express that I still care about her, but she hasn't responded. My parents are worried that this will permanently damage our relationship. I'm struggling to understand if I truly overreacted or if I was justified in prioritizing my emotional well-being. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after everything that happened during the planning process. Character count, 6,187 word count. 1,184 if you want. I can also write an even longer, fully detailed version closer to 7,000 characters, with more wedding drama, family interactions, and nuanced dialogue, which tends to make AITA's stories go viral. Do you want me to expand it to that version? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 25F. Growing up, we were practically inseparable. We shared clothes, secrets, and had each other's backs through everything. So when she started dating someone new last year, I was cautiously optimistic. I tried to keep an open mind because I wanted her to be happy, but over time, I've started to feel increasingly uneasy about her fiancé, Mark, 27M. Emma met Mark at a mutual friend's party. At first, he seemed charming enough, funny, sociable, and polite. But within a few weeks, little things started to bother me. He often made jokes at Emma's expense, things like mocking her eating habits or making subtle digs about her career choices. At first, I thought I was overreacting, but then I noticed it happening in front of other people too. He seemed to delight in embarrassing her. I tried talking to Emma about it gently, but every time I brought it up, she brushed it off, saying I was reading too much into things and that he's just teasing. Over time, the teasing turned into controlling behavior. He began pressuring her to quit certain hobbies, to change how she dressed, and even to consider moving in with him sooner than she was comfortable with. I saw her confidence eroding in ways that worried me. Fast forward to the wedding planning. Emma asked me to be her maid of honor. I was honored, and at first, I wanted to put my feelings aside for a big day. But as planning went on, Mark became increasingly overbearing. He insisted on making nearly all the decisions, even ones that were traditionally left to the bride and her maid of honor. He micromanaged seating arrangements, forced changes to the guest list to exclude people he didn't like, and criticized every vendor suggestion I made. Emma seemed conflicted but hesitant to push back because she didn't want to upset him. The breaking point came about a month before the wedding. Mark found out that I had planned a small, optional brunch with some of the bridesmaids the morning of the wedding. He called Emma to complain and told her it was unacceptable and that I was trying to undermine him. Emma, stressed and upset, asked me to cancel the brunch. I explained that it was meant to be harmless and something she could enjoy with her friends before the big day, but she sided with him. I realized that my presence at the wedding would feel like endorsing his behavior, and I couldn't bring myself to celebrate a man who consistently treated my sister poorly. I told Emma that I couldn't be her maid of honor and that I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I tried to explain my concerns calmly and sincerely, emphasizing that my decision was out of love and worry for her, not anger or jealousy. Emma was devastated and furious. She accused me of being controlling and trying to force her to leave Mark, saying I was ruining her happiness. Mark also messaged me directly, calling me manipulative and judgmental. Our mutual friends have started taking sides, and it's created a tense atmosphere in our family. My parents are frustrated with me, saying I should support your sister no matter what, and I feel guilty about upsetting Emma. I've thought long and hard about this, and part of me worries I'm being unreasonable. I do love my sister, and I want her to have a happy wedding, but I also can't ignore what I perceive as toxic behavior from Mark. I'm trying to balance my loyalty to my sister with my personal boundaries and moral compass, but it's tearing me apart because I don't want to damage our relationship permanently. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé. AITA for refusing to let my younger sister's fiancé have a say in my wedding plans. So, I, 29F, have been engaged to my partner, Sam, 31M, for almost a year now. Planning a wedding has been exciting but stressful, and while I knew family drama could come into play, I didn't expect it to be this early. My younger sister, Lily, 25F, recently got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Matt, 27M, and that's where the tension started. When Sam and I announced our engagement, Lily was genuinely happy, at least on the surface. However, as soon as we started planning, she started dropping subtle hints about helpful suggestions from Matt regarding my wedding. At first, I ignored it because, obviously, she and Matt have a right to be excited, but it became more blatant over time. The first major incident happened when we were discussing the wedding venue. I had my heart set on a botanical garden ceremony with an intimate outdoor reception. Lily sent me a long message explaining that Matt thought a rustic barn would be more Instagrammable and better for guests. I was taken aback and replied politely that we appreciated their input, but had already chosen the venue. Lily said she would support our decision, but then kept bringing Matt's opinions into conversations with other family members, which made me uncomfortable. Things escalated when we got to the catering. Sam and I wanted a simple buffet with comfort foods, because that's what we enjoy and what fits the vibe of our wedding. Lily came to a planning meeting with Matt, and suddenly he started giving his opinions about what wedding food should be. He went on about how sliders and artisan cheese boards are overrated and that we should hire a high-end sushi caterer because it's classy. I politely told him that our wedding menu reflected our tastes, not his, and he got visibly upset, saying that I was being too controlling and not considering the guests. The breaking point came last week when we were finalizing the guest list. Sam and I were trying to keep it under 150 people due to budget and venue constraints. Lily called me to discuss some friends she wanted to add, which I was okay with because she's my sister. But then she said Matt wanted to add a few more people and proceeded to name at least 10 of his college friends. I explained firmly that we had a hard cap and couldn't accommodate extra guests without going over budget, and that we had to prioritize family. Matt apparently overheard some of the conversation because Lily texted me later saying he was very offended that he couldn't invite all his friends and that he felt disrespected by me. After this, Lily called me crying, saying she didn't want Matt to be upset, but also wanted to respect our plans. She asked if I could make a compromise. I said no. I explained that while I love Matt, this is my wedding, not his, and that he doesn't get to make decisions about my day. I tried to phrase it nicely, but she kept pleading, saying he's very sensitive and that I should consider his feelings. At that point, I ended the conversation because I was getting frustrated. Now, things have escalated further. Lily hasn't spoken to me since the conversation, and Matt posted something vaguely passive-aggressive on social media about people trying to control everything for themselves and forgetting about those around them. My parents are caught in the middle. They said I should try to include Matt's perspective to keep the peace, but I feel like that's unfair. This is my wedding, my partner, and my budget. It's not a joint project with my sister's fiancé. I feel like I'm being painted as the villain for not letting someone who isn't even family dictate my wedding plans. I've tried to be polite and accommodating, letting Lily make decisions about her bridesmaids' dresses and even offering her input on the music, but anything beyond that seems to trigger Matt's insistence on having a say. I don't want to create family drama, but I also don't want to compromise on things that are important to Sam and me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé have a say in my wedding plans? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé plan my wedding after he completely disrespected my boundaries? So, this is going to be long, but I'll try to break it down. I, 29F, am engaged to my boyfriend, 32M, and we're planning a wedding for next summer. We've been together for almost 5 years and have always been pretty independent with our decisions. My younger sister, 25F, recently got engaged as well, and her fiancé, 27M, is, well, let's just say he's very opinionated. When I got engaged, I was over the moon, of course, and my sister was genuinely happy for me. But things started to get weird when she mentioned that her fiancé wanted to help plan my wedding as practice. At first, I laughed it off, assuming she was joking, but she said he's serious because he has a good eye for aesthetics and event planning. I told her politely that we were handling everything ourselves and appreciated her and her fiancé's enthusiasm, but we wanted to do it on our own. She seemed fine with that at the time. Fast forward a month, we had booked a venue and sent out a rough save the date. That's when her fiancé started messaging me directly, giving unsolicited advice. He suggested I should switch venues because he thought ours was mediocre, wanted me to reconsider my wedding colors because they weren't cohesive, and even had opinions on my dress, saying it didn't flatter me enough. I tried to politely explain that I had already booked everything and was happy with my choices. He brushed it off, saying, "I'm just trying to help. You don't have to take it personally." Then things escalated. He started commenting on my guest list, questioning why certain friends weren't invited and why some distant relatives were. He even suggested firing our wedding photographer because he knew someone better. At this point, I felt completely disrespected. My fiancée backed me up and said he'd handle any further interference from her fiancé, but I decided to confront him myself first. I sent him a long message, explaining that we appreciated his desire to help, but our wedding was our decision, and we did not want him involved in planning. I asked him to respect our choices and boundaries. He replied with a lengthy explanation about how weddings are stressful and everyone needs advice, and that if I didn't take it, I was being stubborn. I tried to ignore it after that, but then he showed up unannounced at our venue during a walkthrough. He insisted on joining and started criticizing the layout, the catering, and even my seating plan. When I asked him to leave, he got defensive and said I was being ridiculous and overreacting. After that incident, I told my sister she could absolutely tell her fiancé he was not welcome in the planning of my wedding. She initially said she would talk to him, but then she came to me crying and said I was too harsh and that I should let him help because he's just trying to contribute. I explained again that his involvement crossed boundaries and made me uncomfortable. She got visibly upset and accused me of turning this into a war and being unreasonable, and our conversation ended with her storming off. My parents got involved after she called them crying about the situation. They were kind of split. My mom thought I was overreacting and should let him offer help, while my dad said it was my wedding and my rules. My fiancée is completely on my side and thinks her fiancé's behavior is controlling and overbearing. The thing is, my sister has been avoiding me ever since the confrontation. She's only been speaking to me when absolutely necessary, and her fiancé keeps posting subtle digs on social media about learning to take advice gracefully. Meanwhile, I've kept my planning private, limited contact with them, and focused on making my wedding the way we want it. Here's the kicker. Our other friends and extended family seem divided. Some think I'm justified because it's my wedding and I should set boundaries, while others think I'm being too rigid and should just let him help to avoid family drama. Honestly, I feel like if I had let him continue, he would have taken over significant parts of the wedding, and my fiancé, and I would have ended up stressed and unhappy on what's supposed to be one of the happiest days of our lives. So AITA for outright refusing to let my sister's fiancé be involved in any wedding planning, even after she begged me to let him help. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, we did everything together, shared our secrets, and supported each other through tough times. Our parents were pretty hands-off, so it was often just the two of us navigating life, and I always thought our bond was unshakable. That said, over the past year, things with Emily have changed in ways I didn't expect, and now my family is calling me the villain. Emily got engaged about 8 months ago to a man named Jason, 29M. I met him a few times at family dinners, and while he seemed polite, I immediately noticed some red flags. He constantly belittled Emily in small ways, making jokes at her expense, undermining her opinions, and generally being condescending under the guise of just teasing. I've seen him do it at family gatherings, and even when it's just the two of them, Emily laughs it off nervously. I try to brush it off at first, thinking maybe he's just awkward or maybe it's harmless banter. The first major incident happened about 6 months ago during a brunch at my apartment. Emily and Jason came over, and we were all talking about work. Jason made a comment about Emily's career that was overtly dismissive, essentially implying she wasn't smart enough for her job. I could see Emily shrink, and I said, "Hey, that's not okay." Jason laughed it off and said, "I'm just joking. She has a great job. Don't be so sensitive." Emily smiled weakly, but I could tell it stung. I tried to let it go, thinking maybe I was overreacting, but the pattern kept repeating. Fast forward to 3 months ago. Emily invited me to help plan her bachelorette party. I was excited to be involved and wanted it to be fun. A week before the event, Jason told her he didn't like the idea of the party and that she shouldn't spend money on something frivolous. He made it clear that if she went through with it, she would be disrespecting him. I was shocked and told Emily that she deserved to celebrate with her friends regardless of what he thought. She agreed and went ahead with the party, but Jason sulked and criticized everything afterwards. The wedding planning itself has been a nightmare. Jason has been micromanaging every detail, telling Emily what color schemes are acceptable, what food should be served, and even which songs can be played. He constantly implies that her opinions don't matter and that she should trust him to know better. Emily has expressed frustration to me, but insists she doesn't want to fight with him before the wedding. I try to gently warn her that this controlling behavior is a warning sign, but she brushed it off. 2 weeks ago, I got a direct message from Jason on social media. He told me that he wasn't comfortable with me attending the wedding because I make Emily anxious and I don't support her choices. I was taken aback. I replied calmly, saying that I love Emily and my only concern has ever been her happiness. Jason didn't respond, and I assumed that was the end of it. Last week, Emily called me. She was crying and said that Jason had told her I was trying to ruin their wedding and that he didn't want me there. She said she didn't want to fight with him, so she might agree. I told her I wouldn't attend the wedding if he insisted, because I refused to be treated that way. Emily pleaded with me, saying I was overreacting and that Jason was just stressed. I told her I loved her and that I would be there for her in every other way, helping with preparations, giving advice, celebrating privately, but I would not sit in a room where he is trying to control and demean me. The fallout has been intense. Our parents and other family members are furious with me. They've accused me of being selfish, dramatic, and trying to control Emily's life. They say this is her choice and that I should respect it, even if I don't like Jason. Emily has stopped answering my calls and texts. A cousin even called me and said, "If you skip the wedding, you're basically saying you hate Emily." I feel stuck. On one hand, I know my sister is an adult and can make her own choices. On the other hand, I feel like her fiancé is manipulative and toxic, and attending the wedding would mean endorsing that behavior. I have always prioritized my family, and it hurts to be painted as the villain. I've tried to support Emily in every way I can, but I can't ignore how Jason treats both of us. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I don't feel safe around her fiancé. Character count, 6,435 if you want. I can write an expanded version that reaches closer to 7,000 characters, adding more tense family interactions and emotional buildup for extra drama that Reddit loves. Do you want me to do that? AITA for telling my sister-in-law she couldn't bring her dog to my baby shower. I, 29F, am about 6 months pregnant with my first child, and I've been really excited about planning a baby shower. My husband, Matt, 31M, has been supportive, and we've been trying to keep it small and low stress, mostly inviting family and a few close friends. We both agreed that we want a calm environment because I get easily overwhelmed, and honestly, I didn't want anything to be chaotic with food, decorations, and activities. Here's where the issue started. Matt's sister, Jessica, 27F, recently got a dog, a small husky mix named Loki. She's obsessed with him and takes him everywhere. I have nothing against dogs. I like them, but I didn't think a baby shower was the right place to bring a pet. I told Matt that I didn't want pets at the shower because I was concerned about allergies, potential messes, and the fact that we would have people over who might be uncomfortable around animals. Matt was on board and said he would tell Jessica. I was nervous because Jessica can be intense about her dog. She treats him like a child and expects everyone else to accommodate him. Sure enough, the day she got the invite, she texted Matt asking if she could bring Loki. Matt reminded her of our conversation, that pets weren't going to be at the shower. Jessica got upset. The next day, she sent me a long text explaining that Loki was family and that leaving him alone stressed him out. She said it wasn't fair that she couldn't bring him and that I was being unreasonable, especially since the shower was in my house. She also accused me of being anti-dog, which I am not, and said that I was prioritizing my comfort over her bond with her dog. I responded politely but firmly, explaining my concerns about allergies, potential messes, and the fact that it was a gathering for a baby. I suggested she come early or stay late to spend time with us, and Loki could hang out in her car for a short while if necessary. She replied saying that was ridiculous and accused me of trying to control her life. The tension escalated when she started messaging Matt nonstop, and he started doubting whether he should enforce the rule. I was getting anxious because I don't want the shower to be stressful, and the thought of having to deal with a whining, possibly hyper dog while hosting people made me panic a little. I told Matt that we needed to stick to our decision. The day of the shower arrived, and I was relieved that Jessica hadn't shown up yet. About an hour into the party, there was a knock at the door. It was Jessica with Loki. She said she couldn't leave him home and thought I'd soften up once she arrived. I was shocked and upset. I told her firmly that she couldn't bring the dog inside, but she started pleading and saying it was just for a little while and that he was very well behaved. Guests were starting to notice the argument, and some seemed uncomfortable. I didn't want to make a scene, but I couldn't allow Loki inside. I told her I would call her a cab, or she could wait in her car until the shower ended, but she refused. At this point, I asked Matt to handle it. He reluctantly agreed and told Jessica she couldn't stay with the dog, and if she wanted to attend, she would have to leave Loki behind. She got really upset, yelled that we didn't care about her feelings, and left. Afterwards, Matt and I were left dealing with some awkwardness among our family, as people were split, some agreeing with me, some thinking I was too harsh. Jessica has since stopped talking to me and has been posting passive-aggressive messages about how family is supposed to include pets too, and how I ruined her chance to bond with her dog and my baby. I feel like I did the right thing because it was my home, my event, and I wanted it to be comfortable for everyone, including myself. Matt says he understands, but he is worried about future family gatherings and the fallout. I can't help but feel a little guilty because I know Jessica loves Loki so much, but I also know that allowing the dog would have caused chaos, stress, and possibly ruined the celebration. So AITA for telling my sister-in-law she couldn't bring her dog to my baby shower? AITA for refusing to give my sister's wedding guests my house key? I, 32F, live in a fairly large house that I inherited from my parents. It's been in the family for generations, and I've spent years renovating it to my taste. It's not a mansion by any means, but it's comfortable and has a big backyard, which is perfect for hosting events. I've always been the go-to person for family gatherings, and I genuinely enjoy hosting, but I also have my boundaries. My younger sister, Emily, 28F, recently got engaged, and as the eldest sibling, I was naturally involved in the wedding planning. I offered to host a reception in our backyard, which I thought was a generous and appropriate way to contribute. I even suggested that I could help with some of the catering costs or decorations if needed. Emily was excited at first and thanked me repeatedly, saying it would save a lot of money and that everyone would love the setting. A few weeks into the planning, Emily sent me a long message that completely threw me off. She said that her fiancé's family had a tradition where all the wedding guests stay over at the bride's or groom's home after the ceremony. They apparently do this to foster a sense of family bonding and intimacy. She asked me if I could leave my house unlocked on the night of the wedding so guests could come and go as they pleased. She said some of the relatives would probably stay overnight and others might just drop by at different times. At first, I thought she was joking because this sounded wildly unsafe and intrusive. I tried to explain to Emily that while I was happy to host the reception, I wasn't comfortable with strangers or even extended family wandering around my house unattended. I mentioned security, personal belongings, and the fact that I like to have private space in my home. I suggested alternatives like renting a nearby Airbnb, using a hotel, or limiting the house access to certain rooms. Emily didn't take it well. She said I was being selfish and ruining family traditions, and that my refusal could cause a rift in the family. She even hinted that our parents would side with her, because this is how weddings are supposed to work in our circle. I try to stay calm, explaining that this isn't a tradition anywhere I've ever heard of, and that hosting a reception is already my gift to her. My house key is not a wedding favor, and I shouldn't have to compromise my safety. The conversation quickly escalated. Emily accused me of making everything about myself and of holding grudges from childhood. She brought up minor old disputes like me refusing to lend her my car once and not helping her paint her apartment when I was busy, painting them as evidence that I'm inherently selfish. She even said, "You're the oldest. You're supposed to set the tone for family unity, not throw tantrums." I got frustrated and told her firmly that no, I wouldn't give my house key to guests. I explained that I was happy to host the reception and even let family come a little early to help set up, but the house itself was off limits overnight. I thought that was reasonable. Now, Emily has been silent with me for over a week. Our parents have also been involved. They called me, disappointed that I wouldn't make the family happy and that I was overreacting. My father said that it was a harmless tradition and that I was being unnecessarily rigid. My mother, while more sympathetic, said that as the host, I should be more accommodating. I tried explaining again that my accommodations were already generous, using my backyard, allowing guests to come for the reception, even helping with decorations, and that handing out keys to multiple people was over the line, but they seem to think I'm being obstinate. Meanwhile, other relatives have started contacting me, asking if they can crash at my place. Some don't even know me, but claim they are friends of the family and will only stay a few hours. I've had to politely decline everyone, and I think word is getting back to Emily that I'm sticking to my stance. She hasn't tried to talk to me directly since our last argument, but I can feel the tension at family gatherings already. My partner has been very supportive, saying I'm not overreacting and that my home is private property. They also suggested that Emily might be trying to guilt me into bending rules that are completely unreasonable, which honestly makes sense at this point. The more I think about it, the more I feel like my family is prioritizing some abstract idea of tradition over my comfort and safety. I also feel sad that this issue could create a permanent rift with my sister, especially because I want to be close to her and enjoy her wedding. But at the same time, I feel strongly that I cannot compromise my boundaries just because she believes it's expected of me. I haven't blocked Emily, and I've tried sending neutral messages, but she ignores them or responds coldly. The reception is still a few months away, and I'm not sure what to do. I want to support my sister in her wedding, but I don't want to feel unsafe or uncomfortable in my own home. So, AITA for refusing to hand out my house key to my sister's wedding guests, even though it has caused tension with her and our parents. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.